My name is Coca Treviño. I'm Program Manager at Big Medium. Thank you so much for coming to today's coffee chat. As you may know, this program features leaders in the creative community, sharing their personal and professional experiences to inspire others pursuing careers in art. Today we have visual artist Xavier Schipani. Welcome, Xavier. Thank you so much for spending your Monday with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about it.
Give me 1 second, because I can really hear myself twice, which is very distracting.
Yeah, not good.
Also, there's a delay in my audio, so it's even more weird, but
Okay.
as long as you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. That's
and
good.
just once?
Just once.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, well, can you tell us a bit about yourself? Where did you grow up?
Sure. I'm an East Coast boy. I grew up mostly in the Maryland, DC area. I went to college in Baltimore, so I kind of stayed in that zone for the first part of my life, and then moved to New York after college. And now I'm here in Austin.
Awesome. And can you tell us about your, how do you start your career in the arts? Were you very creative as a kid? Is this something that has always been in your heart?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have memories of drawing in class, getting in trouble for drawing in class. My parents really encouraged any sort of creative endeavor that I wanted to pursue. So I was really lucky for that. And then also growing up in DC, there's so many resources that are free as far as museums and children's programs. So I definitely participated in a lot of those and was an avid museum goer ever since I was a child. So yeah, started that. Yeah.
No, please go ahead.
Oh no, that's kind of just my excitement came, I think, from seeing so many works of art. So, in person, and yeah, so I was definitely very lucky in that regard.
Yeah, and were you always drawn to painting or drawing, or did you explore any other methods and disciplines?
Yeah, I mean, I always liked drawing and painting really large. My grandmother worked for the government, and she would bring home these giant stacks of computer paper when they were attached. I don't know, some people might not remember this that are watching, but if you're over the age of 30, you probably know what I'm talking about. But I would take the stack and just spread it out and make one long piece, which I think is what I love to do now. So that's kind of stuck with me over time. And but I did explore and branch out a little bit more. I took sculpture classes in college. I didn't really take many structured art classes before, I guess, the last 2 years of high school, when I went to an art magnet program. But before that, it was kind of just finding stuff around the house, and I was really into science. So I was into building things like objects, but more based in science, I would say, than art.
Oh, that's so cool. But yeah, very imagination and very
oh yeah,
curious kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a couple words I think that I could be described as a child, but curious is one of the nicer of them. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, thank you. And how, so was in your head always this is the thing I do, or were you exploring other career paths?
I actually was a really good athlete, and that was pretty much my passion as far as elementary school, middle school. Then I got to high school and started to get offers from colleges, and so I kind of felt like that was going to be it for me. And then things changed, and I had to take this art credit as a sophomore, and then I found out about this art magnet program, and I just wanted to be, I don't know, I felt different, and maybe I was excited because it was something new. But yeah, I basically took 2 years of photography classes and a painting class, and my photo teacher was like, you should apply to art school. And I didn't really know anything about it. So I went to portfolio days and applied and got in, which was crazy. I mean, but yeah, that was my other goal, I guess, was to play sports professionally. I don't know. Not do math was
Yes,
my
I
my
can
goal.
relate to that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, like my dad says, like, I chose my career based on how much math I was gonna use,
Yeah.
and it wasn't on purpose, but maybe my brain was trying to tell me something for sure.
Yeah, when I found out that I didn't have to take any math credits, I was like, what? Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, it's kind of all, like, it all happened really quickly once I figured out that it was a possibility for me to go. And then, just, yeah.
So you were kind of already like almost an adult whenever you start approaching to art, right? So did your art always had like this like intentional and very well thoughtful in topic or themes, or were you just, it was that a journey like into discovering what you wanted to talk about? Like, it was that from the get-go, or did it took you some time to get there?
I feel like I've always been really socially and self-aware. And I think that has that's something that I've possessed from a really young age. And so I think my work reflects that sort of observation of things that are happening. But obviously, you become more self-aware as you grow, and you also, I think that in growing up, I've focused on what's really important to me, and I've learned more about myself, so I know, how I can articulate those thoughts without, I think a lot of my earlier work was just like, like, this is so crazy, like everything was so highly emotional, and now it's still emotional, but I think I'm able to communicate that emotion in a way that is accessible and more, and is also, I'm able to focus on certain things, but also have like a various array of ideas and intentions that I'm able to execute at the same time.
And more like synthesized with your like new not so new brand, but with the whole thing that you have going on, like more concise.
Yeah, and I think too, just the pressure of like when you're first starting to make work, you want to be known for one thing, or to be, this is my style. And I think that as I've evolved, I definitely know that I have a style, but I'm able to, like, when I do poster work, or when I do more like activist based works, I tend to keep them simple and use black and white and a lot of typography, and that's like one style, but it can coexist with the other work that I'm doing without me feeling pressure to be seen as one sort of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you've always been influenced by your feelings and your surroundings, and you have such an important and loud voice nowadays. And I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with your work. We showed some slides with it, but if you're in Austin, you've seen Xavier's work in one place or another. So yeah, and it's always like, it has a loud voice. It is gorgeous, and it's amazing, but at the same time, it has a very intentional message. So can you tell us about how do you approach your work like that? You were telling us a little bit about it before, but how is the message, like, do you think about the message first and then how to transmit it, or are you just, is this something that is constantly in your head, and then you develop the work with the voice?
I think right now more than ever, it feels really urgent. So a lot of times I don't really, I'm like, I know whatever happens, like whatever I make or possibly say, it's not always going to be the right thing. But to witness what's happening and to, you know, at least create imagery that is almost a timeline for, you know, current events or social events, is really important to me. It's almost like a visual diary. And so I do, like, I have a lot of, I mean, I'm constantly have a lot going on internally, and I'm just trying to get it. It feels like some days I'm like, I got to get this out onto something. So whether that's text work or, you know, poster work, or even sharing work that is important and captures, you know, current events is key for me. But yeah, I think right now it's just such an overwhelming time, and it's hard to always produce something. I mean, it goes up, it's like up and down for me. So some days it's a lot, and other days I don't have anything really to say. I always try.
Oh, but yeah, that we need the time to absorb and to understand and to keep your peace, and then recharge and say the thing, like the conclusion of all the thoughts. Yeah, and it's so important, and doing work like this and being so active, because yeah, if someone follows you, like I definitely suggest you follow Xavier on social media. Like it's again, it's beautiful and it's important, and you connect to different people that are saying the all that we're thinking, but in a very I don't know, like very well thought out and intentional way. So it's important to be surrounded by this community and by someone that just motivates you and just gives you the information in a beautiful way, so that you can accept it and embrace it, and not feeling like someone is nagging you, or that you've been attacked by the process of learning. That it's really hard, because we are learning a lot nowadays. And on that point, like, would you ever consider to have like a public position? I feel like you have such a strong voice, and you're doing so much work that you should lead us.
I think for now I'm gonna just keep making the work. It's not something that I would.
Fair.
It's not something that I would shy away from. I think that, you know, I think in making this work, what's important, it's almost, to me, it feels like advertising, right? So it's like you're creating images that are a reminder of what's happening. And sometimes I'll read something and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense, you know? And then I think about it, whereas this is what I want this work to do for other people. Like to read, like, you know, trans lives matter, Black trans lives matter, for people to go, aha, yeah, they do, they matter, that's important. Or, you know, any of this movement, any takeaway that will make people think is really important. Because, and it's almost, I don't want to say I don't want to disrupt someone's day, but I do want someone to, you know, maybe take a detour and put themselves in someone else's shoes, even for like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever it is. So yeah, I think it's important to remind people of maybe something that maybe they don't know anyone that's trans, or maybe they are afraid. So I think that's the most important thing. That's what I'm really focused on right now. And public office would be interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I've never thought about it, so it's good. It's
Well,
good.
you have my vote, 100%.
Yes.
You need to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I believe in using our platforms or work or time in things that matter. and seeing that in your work constantly and your platforms and how intentional you are with what you do. Yeah, I think like those are the things that we should be looking for. And yeah, can you tell us more about it? Like how I know activism is something really strong in your practice. So can you tell us more about your themes, your what drives you to be so vocal and to have this deep passion on it?
I think, like I said, what really drives it for me is having the experience of transitioning and understanding that there is a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of policy that keeps, you know, trans and queer people, people of color in a very tight space, and also in a, like, sometimes just flat out restricts them from living their lives. So like, I think in going through that fight and transitioning also in Texas, where it's a problematic state for a lot of those identified people, I think that's definitely driven me to push a message that it's not okay to discriminate. It's not okay to hate people for who they are. It's not acceptable to keep people down because you're afraid of who they are. I think that's a huge part of it for me. And I think I don't know that I would be as, I don't know, it's hard to say if I would be as affected if I didn't transition in Texas. I think that, you know, it's sort of it was a lonely place to go through that. Whereas like if I had stayed in New York, I would have this like whole built-in community. But I think it's important to also stay in a place that doesn't have that community and try and build it, versus they call it like queer migration, where queer people just go to larger cities where they feel safe and they have healthcare and they have all these things, which again, that's really important. And I'm not knocking that. It's safety, your safety and your happiness are the most important. But I always think about all the people that can't afford to do that, that are queer, that get left behind. And just, you know, every like 5 years, you have to start over again in building your community, because it gets gutted by, you know, people going to LA or to New York or San Francisco. So I think that that's a huge part that drives me is my transition and the transition of others, or the experience of others. And just feeling, I mean, I don't think that I would have the perspective to create this work if I didn't feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really what drives it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And can you tell me about like the graphic or the technique behind what you do? So you basically do mostly larger scale, like the murals, or sometimes it goes to graphic design. But can you tell us a bit about the different shapes your art takes?
Yeah, so a lot of, I mean, I mostly do everything by hand, even if it's, I sketch everything. And then the more graphic work, I will color digitally. The large works are normally start as small sketches, and then I project. I'll do like individual sketches if they're bodies, and then I'll, you know, either trace them in place, or I'll do one composition on the computer with each body scanned in and kind of play around with everything. And then I just project it and trace it and paint it. So, and then it's really hard for me to stay in like a small to medium range. I have been playing around with pastels and watercolor the past, well, basically, I mean, in quarantine, I've been like really playing around with pastels, which has been fun. And it's like it's hard. It's hard for me to stay small, but it's a good exercise because not everybody has a 20-foot wall for a painting. So it's good for art sales as well.
Great. Awesome. And I've seen your art also like in t-shirts, and I know you had like a really successful project with Europe Charlie's. Like, how do you like doing those partnerships as well?
Oh yeah, I love working with brands. It's fun because a lot of the time, you know, you're pushed a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and you grow every single time you work with someone else because you're communicating with someone new. And I mean, if for an artist, you can tend to live like a pretty insular life where you don't really have to make concessions or communicate, but it's really important. It's taught me a lot about business and just overall, you know, relationships, preserving relationships with brands. So yeah, I've done a lot of collaborations these past couple months. And I have a really exciting collaboration coming out with Nike in October that I'm excited about.
Nice.
So yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah, it's for National Coming Out Day, which is cool.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and thinking about that, like, do you have any characteristics that you have to have before you enter like a project? Like, either if they're like physical, like you need to work with this specifications, or like what is the kind of work that you're doing, or yeah, what are you looking for in your projects?
Typically, it's a big deal for me that they're queer friendly, that they sometimes the money is not there, you know, and so I have to ask myself, like, is it worth it? Do I believe in this company? And then the other third one is like, oh, is the money there? And I have to have like 2 out of 3 of those things to make it worth it. And typically, you know, like right now I'm working on a book cover for a YA novel about a trans identified male who has a crush on his friend or his teammate. And so when the project came to me, I was like, oh, this is really exciting. This is a book that I would have loved to read when I was a kid. The company that's putting it together, it's Penguin. So it's like they do really great work. They've published a lot of queer LGBTQIA plus books this past couple of years, and they have a budget. So like that's an ideal situation. And then also they just, you know, they wanted me to make my work. That's why they asked me. So that's always the hard part if someone wants to hire you and they're like, yeah, but we don't want it to be like this style. And you're like, well, okay. And then the money really has to be there. So you're like, okay, well, if you're asking me to do what I don't do to do this, then the money needs to be there, you know? So yeah, I mean, I look for just an overall understanding from that client of who I am. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a better fit. The projects work better that way.
Yeah, you have some more freedom. You know they want your art, like, so it allows you to explore a bit more. And do you use social media for that? Like, is like Instagram a good tool for you for people to discover your art, or what would you say are good drivers of your work?
Yeah, Instagram is great. I mean, it's how I get a lot of work. I've done a couple of book covers, and I don't know if they're just like internally talking, or it's just something that comes across their desk as a publisher or as an editor. But that's something that I really enjoy. And yeah, it's just been, I think a lot of it is Instagram, honestly, and just showing pretty consistently is also helps stay on the radar.
Yeah, and I've seen that a lot, mostly like since COVID. arrived like into our lives, like how much people are turning to digital and to these platforms when there's other people that have been there forever. You have had a presence on Instagram for some time, right?
Yeah, I think I would say in the past 4 years, it's been stronger. And I think like when I first got Instagram, I was just posting more, personal stuff. But I think now it is a great tool for a lot of artists, small businesses, you know, to share a little bit about who they are, but then also their progress. And yeah, I mean, I know a lot of my peers use it as in place of a website even, which I mean, I have a website, but I update my Instagram like at least once or twice a week. My website is sad. Honestly.
It's part of, and this is not meant to be a commercial for Instagram. I always not at all. It's more like the different tools that artists can have and can use to broaden their horizons, to share their message and to engage with the community, which is something that you're great at, and that I know it's more, it can be more a little bit democratic, where everyone has access to this thing, and you can consume a lot of different art through a free platform, which is nice. But I have my questions about that company.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm waiting for like some new alternative.
I know. Let's do it.
You think since COVID arrived, we would have someone somewhere would come up with something, but I guess not.
I know. Let us know if you're working on that project. We will be super into it.
Yes.
So, and another thing is, as a big subject on your work is masculinity, its meaning and how you navigate it. Can you tell us more about your vision on it?
Sure. I think that my biggest connection to masculinity is that we've made it this measurable thing. We've defined what a man is, and we've held man to that standard, which is impossible to achieve. And if it is achieved, it's usually this exaggerated, aggressive caricature of maleness. And I think that my connection is the fact that as a trans man, I don't exist within that definition. So for me, it's about creating space for myself and for other trans male identified bodies to be present and to be visible within the context of art. And also life, I mean, but there's gotta be some sort of visual representation that exists in order for, I feel like, myself to exist in life. I think that the boundaries of masculinity are so tight, and it doesn't allow for any wiggle room. It's like, if you're not by definition masculine, then you're feminine, or you're queer, and I just want to exist, and I want others to exist. And in film, in television, in art, and I want to see bodies like mine, because I didn't really have that growing up. And I feel like the more we're able to create that now, life's never going to be easy, but at least there'll be some representation of what it means to be trans male identified, and have an example of that, and have a positive example. And so, yeah, I think just trying to create images of trans male bodies that are you know, strong and sensitive and tender and just complex like any human. I feel like trans people often, because we don't exist, we're not human, and we don't have, it's like anytime we do anything, it's remarkable or it's scary. And there isn't this middle ground where we just exist as people. So I think trying to share that with others and open up a dialogue. And you know, I'm very open about my transition, and I have the privilege to do so, and that's not something that everyone has. So I feel like it's my duty to really be a steward for this conversation that needs to happen, or to answer questions that are asked.
And have you find that being this open and getting to this topic through art has helped? Are people like usually open and at least understand how toxic that standard of masculinity can be? How do you feel like both as a person and as an artist, how is that approach to the community? Like how, yeah.
I mean, I think right now we're really starting to see cracks in a lot of systems. I think that brutality is at an all-time high, and we have a front row seat, whereas like none of this is new, but our access is. So we're seeing the repercussions of treating a boy like a man and a girl, you know, like a woman, like the same, keeping people in this box, and how unhappy they are, and how it creates inequity. And it really is, basically, we're not giving ourselves the tools to create a society where we're all, you know, can express multitudes of gender, or, you know, or race. And I think that for as negative as a lot of things are right now, and for as hard as they are for a lot of people, I do feel like we are growing and conversations are opening up. I mean, people are raising their children differently than even my generation. Like my generation is raising their children differently by and large. I believe, I like hope. And I see it a lot. I see a lot of my friends that have kids and the way that they let them express themselves. And I do believe that we're tackling things that 10 years ago no one was talking about. You know, I mean, for example, like when I was in high school, I didn't know one trans person. I didn't see any on television. I mean, Mrs. Doubtfire was like, it was just like all of these really horrible representations of what a trans person was. So I think right now we are experiencing you know, I know at least like 2 or 3 of my friends who have kids in classes with kids that have no gender, or they are transitioning. And I think it's amazing. For me personally, I do think that my work is a conversation starter. I think that sometimes people are a little shy or sheepish around like the more sexual work, but you know, you can see their minds, like they're like, oh, you know, it's like they're figuring it out as they're looking, and we're like, what am I looking at? And they're like, oh. And you know, I don't shy away from questions, and I don't mind. I think what happens though for a lot of trans bodies is that, like I said, because we don't really exist in this binary, or sometimes at all, that we become these like objects. So our sexuality, people ask us things that they would not ask another adult, or like even or a person, anyone. And so we become reduced to this really small thing, and therefore you can only ask us these certain questions, like, you know, that are very archaic and almost like childish. But I do think that that's changing, and there's a lot of work that's being made and being done by my peers. That's really exciting.
Yeah, and like you said at the beginning, like we are having all these conversations, we are realizing that that system that everyone was so comfortable working in, or if you weren't comfortable, like you knew you had to maybe not be vocal about it and just take it. Like it is a good moment to raise all these questions and all this subjects to, like, why are we okay with this when it could be so much better? So yeah, I agree. Like it's hard the day to day, but it gives me so much hope that people are willing to work with themselves and to learn and re-educate ourselves. Like I'm very excited about that part, that yeah, we are realizing that we don't have to live by these norms at all. Like it's within our power. And yeah, like those new generations, like I mean, they're kind of activists. Like we've seen what kids with TikTok have done and stuff.
Right,
so
totally.
like yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like that moment that, like I was saying, I don't think that I would be creating this work if I didn't feel uncomfortable, and I've felt it like to my core. It's not like a fleeting moment. It's something that I lived in. And I think when you start to question everything around you because you're being questioned, you're like, well, wait, why are we doing this way? Why is this a thing still? It's like, okay, hello, this is not working, but I don't think, like, a lot of people don't have that. They don't experience that. And so they don't think that, oh, this is terrible for somebody else and fine for me, and if it's fine for you your whole life, then you're why would you want it to change? And I think people are also like, not to say that, I think that everyone experiences a level of discomfort, and I think that a lot of, especially white people, are really uncomfortable right now because they are being called out, and we have a lot of work to do. I mean, there's a lot of work that everyone needs to do, but us especially. And I think that makes people really uncomfortable. And I just hope that, like, I'm seeing a lot of people just get back to, business as usual. And I really encourage people to not do that because that's when you get complacent and you go back into, oh yeah, this is fine for me for now, and wait till the next sort of uprising and participate for a week. This isn't something that is trendy, or, it's something that has been going on for so long, like I said, and now we just have access to it.
Yeah.
So I hope and encourage everyone to stay focused and to stay engaged and really keep doing work on themselves during this time.
Yeah. Definitely, because the other bad thing that could happen is, like, for us to get used to seeing those things, like those videos that just and that feels so much worse. So yeah, hopefully this will keep momentum, and we'll have artists like you, or different voices that we've always had, but there is so much more data and so much more people involved that I do feel that we can do big changes. And before we go to Q&A from our friends, can you tell us about future exhibits or projects that you're working on that you're excited about?
Yeah, so I have a body of work that I was going to be showing tomorrow at Preacher here in Austin. We decided to postpone that for everyone's safety, and the works are really large, and it's just hard. I mean, it's, you want to show the work that you've made, but you also want people to show up and see it.
Yes.
So I had an exhibition. I was lucky enough to have an solo exhibition open in LA right before everything shut down, and they did like a virtual the end of the exhibition was virtual, which is cool. And I love that a lot of galleries are continuing their programming and they're doing virtual shows, but it's hard. It's hard not to want people to see your work in person.
Yeah.
So I have that I'm, working on, and I'm gonna just keep making work, which is not a bad thing to have that time. I have a couple of murals that I'm working on here in town, mostly in private spaces. And then I was going to be on the art fair circuit, but now I don't really know. TBD on that.
Yeah, keep us posted. Yeah, because I agree. It's really nice, and yeah, it's accessible to see the things online, but especially like your big murals, like you kind of have to be there and let them surround you completely.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it, is feeling small next to the work is just, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I'll probably take the time to, just keep working. And I definitely want to work on a couple of zines and books and keep making, obviously, political works. I'll probably participate heavily in getting people to vote. I'm doing a couple of collaborations for that. I just finished one with Shepard Fairey and his wife. If everyone's not familiar, Shepard Fairey is a muralist, graffiti artist, very political. He did the Hope poster of Obama. But yeah, he's very active in politics. So I did a campaign with them to get people out to vote, and I have a t-shirt line that's coming out probably in a couple weeks with Vintage Gay. They're a shop out of LA. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll probably be super active for ramping up for that as well.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to see all of that work. Yeah, and can you tell us your I mean, we'll put it on our social media, but can you tell us your handle for people to go and see, and your website?
Oh yeah, so it's just, my handle is just my name, no space or anything, _. And then my website is the same, just www.xavierschipani.com.
Thank you so much. And if someone wants to ask a question, please do the Q&A or the chat. I have Siwa saying earlier, you get it before the transition, you may not be on board. However, being in the South and the land of Jim Crow, you feel it, but may not understand that it was the policies of your politicians of the South. Lavia. Thank you, Siwa. She's one of our board members and most stronger supporters. So thank you for that. Yeah, so thank you so much. Anyone, we have like 2 people here. Feel free to tell us if you have any questions for Xavier. I'm very excited to see your work around town. Do you have something that people can just drive by right now here in Austin?
Yeah, there's a mural on Rainey Street. It's right outside of a newer bar called Reina. So it's just a mural on the, you'll see it if you're on Rainey proper. I feel like that's it right now. A lot of my murals have been, like, buildings have been purchased and painted over. But that's the mural game, I guess, right?
Yeah, true.
So.
Well, if no one has anything to ask, I'll let you have the rest of your day. Thank you so much for dedicating this time to us. I'm very excited.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This talk forever. So yeah, thank you everyone that joined us, and thank you, Xavier, for your time and amazing work. I'm very looking forward to see all the new work that you're coming up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.